Oh no, no, no! Oh, you guys, come on, why? Why do you do this to me? I told you I didn't want to deal with this. Where's this kind of enthusiasm for a video I actually enjoyed making? Well, I mean, now I have to do it or else I'll be called a liar. And hey, it's what the people want apparently, so like a valiant warhorse to a hero of legend, I shall fearlessly charge into my bedroom and respond to this idiot. But first off, some ground rules. 1. You asked for this and I didn't want to do it, so you better hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I better not catch you watching this, having a laugh, and then just leaving me out to dry. Alright? Okay. 2. This video is very long and he talks very slow and repetitively, so I'm gonna have to make cuts and speed it up where I can for the sake of time and our collective sanity. 3. If you think I'm taking him out of context or misrepresenting what he says, don't bother watching the original video. Instead, a stream I did where we went over this catastrophe in preparation for writing this video will be available shortly after this is published. You can watch that and I recommend that you do. It was kind of fun and we mentioned some stuff I skipped over here. 4. This one is addressed to the guy I'm responding to. All the terrible names I'm gonna call you are just for fun and not an attack on you as a person. There is, however, plenty to criticize about your character and I'm not gonna be skittish about that. I don't think you're an admirable human at all. And when it comes to your Tekken knowledge and competence, I meant every single word of that. Don't try to cry ad hominem either. If you do, you're just proving that you have no idea what that means. 5. You read the disclaimer, I hope, but I need to make this very clear. Do not go after this guy and harass him, and I do not condone such behavior. Irredeemably wrong as he is, he does not deserve that. It's not like he hurt anyone, he's just spreading lies due to incompetence, ignorance, and stupidity. Got all of that? Alright, let the suffering commence.
I want to say, number one, I am not a Lee main, but I don't need to main your character. I have 30 years of experience in this franchise, and I am exceptional when it comes to breaking down a character.
Okay, we're just gonna pin that down. Trust me, it's gonna come up a lot.
And to be quite honest, over the last couple of days, I've been seeing video after video of YouTube creators and some Lee mains complaining that their character is dead, quote unquote, their character is worthless. If I didn't know any better, I would swear that the character was actually the worst character in this game.
That's all true, he is the worst in the game, and you'll quickly prove that you know exactly nothing.
So I don't expect to change the minds of some of the OG players that main Lee Chaolan. So this video is more so for like some of the newer players who, you know, who just, if you really want to hear a different perspective, then this video is definitely for you.
In other words, you have no compelling arguments and are just hoping to target people who have little to no experience in Tekken.
If I am wrong on certain things, I'm open to being wrong. This video is not meant to disrespect anybody or admonish anybody's opinion.
Well, that was an outright stinking lie. Oh, what? You're just gonna do text? Well, that's lazy. And I mean, I do use it sometimes now that it has some range compared to Tekken 7, but Lee still cannot do much with that frame advantage unless the opponent presses. No, you rarely use it because it's a slow high and also super linear. What do you mean the exact same move? You're actively demonstrating that this is way better. Oh my god, shitty beard, are you blind? You can see right there that Jin gets +9 compared to Lee's +5. He can also transition to crouch dash where he can launch you, and he also has a threatening low with a hell sweep. He can even threaten you with his bullshit heat smash with that frame advantage, and look how much everything pushes you towards the wall. And that's ignoring all the other garbage that he can throw out from that stance. I can already tell you're gonna be completely insufferable.
First move I want to cover is one of the most panic-based moves in the entire franchise of Tekken, period.
Oh, here we go. You're gonna whine about Magic 4 because you keep getting launched by it because you don't know your own frames, right?
And that is Lee's back 4.
What?
It is one of those moves that is infamous in terms of being a panic move, comeback move, whiff punish, whatever you want to call it.
Well, is it a panic move or a whiff punish then? And how the dick is it a whiff punish when it barely does anything on normal hit and you have a long reach 15 frame launcher that's actually quick?
If you actually direct your attention to where it says attack startup frames, this is something that a lot of new players especially, and maybe even some pros are not aware of. When you look at the attack startup frames, you see how it says 20-22? What that means is that the attack will make contact with the opponent on the 20th frame. However, it has 2 additional frames where the move is still active.
So what? That's not unique. I started pressing random buttons with Jin and most of the moves ended up having multiple active frames. It hardly defines the move either, just means it has a bit more reach and has an easier time catching expanded hurt boxes.
If you happen to be pressing into Lee,
or if you just happen to be pressing, that's not something that's under your control, that's a fucking act of God right there.
Since frames really matter in this game, if by some off chance, and this is what ends up being the case most of the time.
Motherfucker, do you hear yourself? That's oxymoronic! Off chance means something is unlikely to happen, whereas most of the times means it's usually going to happen. You see the problem here?
If you happen to be pressing a button, even after that 20th frame, up to 2 additional frames, you will be hit on counter and lose damn near 100 damage.
So in other words, if Lee catches your timing or you were just going in like a headless chicken, and you're just describing counter hits in general, this is nothing special.
And let's not talk about how safe this move is, because this move has next to no recovery time.
Well, yeah, that's what makes it a solid keypot move, or else we wouldn't be using it like that.
This is why a Lee player can essentially run this move ad nauseum.
Well, no, he can't, because there's 100 advancing plus unblock moves in this stupid game.
So after you block a back 4 and you're -3, let's just say if you just so happen to want to mash buttons and try to, press your advantage. This is what can possibly happen to you.
Yeah, and here's what else could happen to you.
Depending on the move that is used, you may be on the receiving end of a Lee armor move.
Oh yeah, fear the dreaded Lee armor moves that are both high and not terribly quick. You just showed a terrible scenario for Lee, dumbass! If they jab check your power crush, they can just duck and launch you on reaction. It does decent damage on a hit, but it's nowhere near as rewarding. And a quick mid check which tends to lose to the power crush basically shuts down all your other options.
The complaints that I've been hearing and reading is that back 3 lost 3 points of damage. 3 huge points of damage, and I'm being sarcastic, of course.
Yeah, because you use it fairly often and up to twice in a combo, it adds up. It was a completely unnecessary nerf. Your stupid ass thought that you can just use it forever and as a whiff punish too.
Let me explain to you what a real nerf would be to back 4. Because I don't think a lot of players even understand what a nerf and a buff really means. If back 4 was -12 on block, that's a nerf.
What? No, that's a complete obliteration! That would make the move completely unusable! I mean, -9 would already make it basically pointless.
In fact, if you ask me, I feel that's actually fair.
Nobody asked you, you haven't the first clue about game design. You're saying this in a game where a lot of characters have safe, normal hit launching mids.
Given the fact that the move is a very deadly panic move.
Nigga, how is this a panic move? It's a 20 frame attack with no evasion, no sabaki, and no armor. The opponent has to be -10 for back 4 to trade with a jab. And if they're -10, I'm just gonna punish them with acid rain for 47 damage. Nobody with half a brain will keep mashing at -10. Flash is a panic move. Samsara is a panic move. Something with some sort of reversal or turn stealing properties. That's why I thought you were gonna whine about magic 4 or down 3 or something. Ah, jeez, we've barely started and you already made me drop the N-bomb. There's nowhere to escalate from this. I'm gonna have to do a full wraparound on my insults.
It's a move that's -3 on block. The fact that it's a counter hit launcher.
-5 normal hit launcher.
And it has 2 active frames.
Why the hell are you harping on the active frames so much? I'm pretty sure that's like most moves.
The frames ensuring that the move is still on the screen for 2 additional frames after it's whiffed. Really?
Well, if it's still active, then it didn't whiff yet, did it, you lemon?
I fail to sympathize with the lead player that's complaining about the so-called nerf of back 4.
It's not a so-called nerf, it's by definition a nerf. Oh, fuck it, let's move on. We'll be here all day.
So, another constant complaint or concern I've heard from Lee players in general has been regarding his lows. Apparently, all of his lows are launch punishable or something like that to that effect.
Oh, okay, so you're either a liar or you have no idea what the problem with Lee's lows is. I guess we can just skip this entire thing, right? Then again, you're here to watch me suffer through this nonsense.
The thing with down 3. Now, I don't agree that it should be -15 because that's right up there with Fengwei. Fengwei's down back 3.
No, they're only kind of similar being a high crushing low, but they're vastly different.
I think I understand the logic that they made that move launch punishable because it is a relatively quick move. It's 16 frames. And it is a perfect high crush.
Perfect high crush? What the hell are you talking about? That's not a term. Do you mean just high crush? Do you not know the difference between evasion and crushing? Really showing those 30 years of experience right there. And if you really want to get into it, not that you could understand any of this, the high crush property takes 6 frames to kick in, so if I don't have those 6 frames, I'm still gonna get hit by a high attack. That's hardly what I would call a perfect high crush.
So as you just saw, I'll show it again. Victor's gonna mash on 1-2, down 3. All that's guaranteed.
Wait, do you not know?
So I have a feeling that the main reason why they made down 3 launch punishable is because of the fact that it is a very strong high crush and it does lead to a guaranteed follow-up.
Holy macaroni, you actually have no idea. 30 years of experience, ladies and gentlemen. You don't even know that this has been a launcher for like, what, 7 years now? At least Tekken 7 Season 2. I don't know about earlier than that. Did you actually ever even see somebody play this character, you lettuce?
Now, you may not agree with that as a Lee player, but that's just the fact. That's just what it is. Now, we have his slide.
Wait, that's it? You're not gonna go through some situations on normal hit, Mr. Exceptional at breaking things down? You didn't even try on normal hit. You probably don't even know that it's -1 on hit.
Now, the slide is 25 frames. I don't know about doing the just frame.
You don't even know how to do it properly by the looks of it. You're not supposed to do it through misstep. So-called 30 years of experience, so you never even tried a slide input.
But in any event, it's -15 is 25 to 31 frames. So what that means, again, much like back 4,
It's nothing like back 4 because this one actually has a lot of active frames.
from 25 up to 31, it can still make contact on the opponent. So when you do the move up close, it is -15. However, if I do it at a slight distance, you can see it now become -13. Still, if I time it properly, now it becomes -9, as you just saw. Now, of course, that does take some time to mastering the distance.
And what do you think is gonna happen if your opponent actually wants to play the game instead of just watching you practice your slide spacing? Unlike the other slides in the game, this one counts as grounded, which means it can be fully launched. And again, Mr. Exceptional at breaking things down over here didn't check any situations on hit, so I'll have to show you how garbage this move is. For one, at a distance it's really linear and you can step it to both sides, even to the right, although a little bit harder than to the left. But more importantly, you can't keep any sort of pressure after this. With the stepping and realignment changes that only seem to have affected Lee and nobody else, if slide hits off axis, you could end up with a backturn move or straight up just throw the attack in the wrong direction and then you just die. And even if that wasn't the case, all the remotely threatening mid options can just be sidestepped. It feels like they were supposed to be tracking here, but it's completely inconsistent. The biggest problem with Lee right now is that he just does not function, and he was already very buggy in Season 1. Not that you would know anything about that, you ignorant and or lying sack of potatoes.
So Hitman 4. Now the interesting thing about Hitman 4 is that this is a 22 frame low sweep. However, if you notice, it is an arcing sweep.
Okay, I'm skipping this part. He goes on way too long about how the animation is a sweep but not a stagger low. That's a completely casual thing to focus on and not becoming of somebody with 3 fucking decades of experience.
So on counter hit, this move results in an actual combo for the Lee player.
Well, yeah, on counter hit. That means that either Lee needs to make a good read or the opponent needs to be stupid or overcommit. It's good, but it's not crazy.
You have a 22 frame low.
Why are you saying it like that? Do you actually think that 20 to 25 frame attacks are fast?
That is a... Oh, it also has active frames. That's 2 additional active frames. So the...
But more active frame! You have no idea what that even means here. You're just reading it because it's on the screen. Because of that, HMS4 actually has some pretty decent tracking to the left, although it is possible to avoid it by going right. But you're not gonna show that, are you? Because the only thing you can break down is food.
So not only is it a perfect high crush,
Not a fucking thing, you melon!
it is only -13. Now, is it launch punishable? Yeah, to some characters, very few. But most of the other cast of characters, nope.
But it doesn't make it safe! There's plenty of scary wall standing 13 frame punishes in this game. Some of them will even wall splat you and then they do get a combo out of it. I'm not saying that this move should be any safer, but you're focusing on the wrong fucking thing. -13 is not a great place to be.
Especially since there's so many different ways to kind of bait your opponent into pressing buttons on you, and then you could just simply sneak this through customs and you get like almost a 60 to 70 damage combo.
Except they don't really ever have to press a button, that's why Lee struggles so much. There's nothing really threatening from Hitman if you don't press, and even if you do get hit by HMS4, it's only +4 on hit. And we've already seen how they can step everything when you're +5 from slide.
So the next low attack I want to focus on is his fully crouched down forward 4. Yes, it is a 16 frame low. Basically it's the same frames as his down 3.
No it isn't, you egg salad, it takes a few frames to go into full crouch.
However, this move is also a high crush attack.
Because he's in full crouch for the entire duration.
This move is on hit +3.
Wow, I am genuinely surprised you actually checked the normal hit properties on this one. But again, +3 is not good, it just means that they can step basically everything you might want to throw out. But of course, Mr. Exceptional Breakdown here doesn't go that far. I'd say that the only thing you're exceptional at is reading numbers off the screen, but as we've seen at the beginning of your war crime of a video, you can't even do that right.
And on counter hit, it knocks down for a guaranteed follow-up for 39 damage.
That's not even the optimal follow-up, I don't think you've ever seen this character before today.
Can I see the argument that that move might be a little bit unsafe? I can see the argument for that move. I can see the argument. Could it be maybe -13? Sure. But is it a bad low? No. I've seen far worse lows.
It's okay, but that's not the problem. The problem is they made it plus on hit and you still can't do anything after that. And I'm sure they didn't think that was gonna be the case, but all you're doing by using that frame advantage is trapping yourself into making a mistake. As I said, I don't even agree with that buff, but that's what it is right now. Man, I'm already so done with this. What's the next move?
Lee's down back 3, which is this move right here. What this low attack is for, it is used to set up Lee's other attacks. Even Raven, for instance, Raven's down 3. It's a very small, unassuming low. Raven's is like 15 frames. It's 0 on hit. Does like maybe 10 damage.
So it's just categorically better because it's much faster, has better frames on both block and hit, and has better tracking on top of that.
But it's designed to get someone to press buttons.
Well, it was, but then they took away our fucking evasion and now we can't do that anymore. It's -1, which means if we both try to jab, the opponent's gonna beat us. But we used to be able to discourage that with a low-risk DF2 that would evade and launch them. So if they wanted to challenge that, they'd have to use slower mids, which set them up for our quick counter hits. And now that move has 0 evasion, making it completely useless in most situations. Now if we want to discourage jab checks, we have to expose ourselves to massive risks, which could have multiple ways of getting us launched. There's so many option selects they can do now. Down 3 is not gonna counter hit a single jab check, and even if it hits, it's only -1. But you don't know about any of that, because let me guess, you're just gonna have the practice dummy do a jab string.
On counter hit, I believe it does 14. Yeah, counter hit, this move does 14 damage.
It does fucking nothing on counter hit. All counter hits do increase damage. Why would you even bring that up? It has no counter hit properties. I'm beginning to doubt that you played the game for 30 minutes, let alone 30 years.
The point of down back 3 is to elicit a response from your opponent. And one scenario could look like this.
Yep, there it is. Fucking called it. You're not even gonna check what's gonna happen if they do literally anything else.
So as your opponent is mashing a retaliatory strike after getting hit by this move, the down 3 is going to pretty much eliminate that because it's a perfect high crush.
Because nobody ever pressed any other button or just blocked. This idiot is just gonna keep repeating the same wrong stuff that I've already went over. I'm gonna have to start skipping more before I defenestrate myself.
Another situation you can use, because in case you might think, well, what if they just happen to hop kick me or do something else? You can just simply do this as well.
Nincompoop! You did the same thing again, but you can't see it through your 30 years of dementia. If you're wrong about the hop kick and they do a jab check, you fucking die. That's why you do a quicker move, to cover more options while exposing yourself to less risk. If you do a quicker move and they end up doing a hop kick, you can just float them, and that's way more rewarding than a power crush.
And lastly, if you really just want to keep it really safe and reposition yourself, you could just simply sidewalk away.
Because apparently homing and tracking moves don't exist. For a moment you pretended like you use your brain, but it's apparent you never think about anything, Mr. Breakdown. Characters have more than 2 moves, you'd think that you learned that over 3 decades.
More importantly, the move is -12.
Why do you think that's the most important thing?
So this is a low attack. While not amazing in and out of itself, it is safe from being launched.
Safe from being launched, but not safe. Even though it's a little bit matchup specific, there's plenty of really scary punishes for that. Alright, so it's down back 3+4 next, right?
Now, personally, I really like this kick because some of the best lows in the game are 20 frame kicks, like think Jin's down back 4.
Well, I kinda like it too, but the problem is it creates distance, so it's a bit hard to keep any pressure off of that.
20 to 22 frames for a low attack is pretty damn good.
Holy, you actually do think that that's quick. Being around 20 frames is not what makes a low good, it's the other properties it has despite it being so slow.
This move is 21 frames, but it also has 2 additional active frames.
Okay, there's something seriously wrong with you, I'm ignoring this from now on.
Also, this move does 19 damage, which is actually very strong.
Yeah, it's pretty decent, but it's not exactly threatening.
It is +4 on hit.
But you can't exactly do much with that, can you? Depending on the distance, they can make just about anything you try after that with by sidewalking left or even just by backdashing out. You have no way to keep pressure in this game where everyone else has endless rushdown. Towards the end of Tekken 7 at least, it used to bring them a little bit closer.
So on counter hit, down back 4, it knocks you down. And it leads to a guaranteed follow-up of the blazing kick for 41 damage.
Yeah, that's cool, but again, that's a low that's only scary if they press.
Let me see, is there something else I can probably... Oh, okay, look at that.
Yeah, look at that, that's really cool, let me try that. Oh, look at that, doesn't work. That's a very matchup specific thing, it's not gonna work for the majority of the cast. It only works on the Bears, Dragunov, and Victor, that's it. I mean, I didn't check every character, but it doesn't even work on King. But hey, you lucked into that discovery, good on you, I'll admit I did not know that one. Too bad you didn't actually check and see that you can launch from there, so for all you know, that could be the end of the follow-up.
And most importantly, this move is only minus 13.
Yodolahu, yodolahu, yodolehi, yodolehi, yodolohi. Yodolahu, yodolahu, yodolehi, yodoleuihi.
Now, this one is pretty interesting because it's quite tricky. And I do believe, depending on the skill of the Lee, you could do this very quick and probably have no telegraph. I'm not that good with it.
You're not that good with anything. Mr. 30 years of experience, exceptional breakdown doesn't understand how movement options work. You can't rush this one. You gotta give time for the misstep and for the sway to come out. It's always gonna be a bit telegraphed and it's already pretty slow. That's why you very rarely use it in neutral like that.
But it's basically you tap forward to dash. That's pretty cool from Lee that you don't have to do an actual quarter circle forward motion.
Holy frijoles, you're beyond a filthy casual if you think that's something that's pretty cool. First off, that's not a dash. A dash is when you quickly double tap forward and then cancel it. Second, misstep is a unique movement option and you usually use it for technical combos.
And then when you tap forward, tap back, he has a sway. Now what I will say about this particular thing, I do feel that Lee should be able to have an actual manual input to sway back by himself. That I will give Lee players. And maybe it's one that you guys haven't even thought of.
No Lee player ever asked for that because we understand that you use it for his instant wall standings. Why would we need that just for one move that's not even that useful?
Because I do feel it's kind of weird that you have to dash forward first and then tap back to get access to this.
For somebody who's exceptional at breaking things down, you sure are doing a lot of feeling and not enough breaking things down and thinking about it.
Now this low, as you can see, it is 20 damage, it is 21 frame startup, it does have one additional active frame, so it is +5, which is very, very good. Now, what does this move do on counter hit?
Oh, some pretty cool stuff actually. It gives you a guaranteed heat engager, it gives you guaranteed acid rain if you can do it, which is very fancy.
That's guaranteed, I believe. That's guaranteed. So you get the point. You can experiment with that.
There is no curse in Elvish, Entish, or the tongues of men to describe how stupid you are! But at least now I know for absolute certain that you've never seen this character before.
And most importantly, what is this move on block? This move is -13. Another thing I want to highlight is that this particular attack, as well as the back sway and the forward dash, they each have high crush properties, and I will demonstrate that right now. Now we're gonna add on the right kick, and it counted as a punish.
So again, if they do anything other than a high and you commit to that, you're boned. It's like you think that because the move counters something specific, that's what's always gonna happen.
So all in all, do I feel that Lee Chaolan has the worst lows in the game? No, I do not. He does have some very solid lows. Are some of them launch punishable? Yes. Are all of them launch punishable?
That was never the problem, you fucking strawman merchant, and I've already shown in detail why you're spewing bullshit. I'm not wasting any more time on this. Moving on.
So one of the other things I heard that Lee players complained about was the loss of the heat engager, or the heat engager element or aspect of Hitman up 3. Or
yeah, and I've actually been thinking a lot about this, going from it kinda sucks over it's not too big a deal, but I've come to the conclusion it's actually pretty bad. See, in Heat, you were able to use this on Oki, and it was either gonna hit them if they block low, or you could heat dash and get +5 to maintain some sort of pressure at the wall, where Lee is incredibly strong since everything wall splats. And while I usually use this move at the wall and it does still wall splat, mid-stage this move can be used to beat dig jabs, which a lot of people love to do against your hitman transitions. Being able to launch them there was pretty good, and it would make them think twice about using a dig jab. Now there isn't really anything that threatening from HMS to discourage them from doing that. Because guess what? Silver Circle does not crush lows that quickly, and it also doesn't give a guaranteed hit engager on hit anymore.
I just want to say that this attack has been buffed according to the patch notes from whatever damage it did prior. I don't know what it did prior, but now it does 32 damage.
So you didn't even read the patch notes because it says it right there! How are you gonna break down a character if you don't even read the changes? You just heard that the damage was buffed and are reading it off the screen right now!
But while you lost the heat engager aspect, you have a 30 frame damage attack that is a perfect low crush. It's a mid, it comes out at 20 frames, and it is completely safe on block.
And it used to be all of that plus a heat engager. I'd call that a fucking nerf.
Is -9 on block. Oh, and it also does 9 chip. And if we have an understanding of chip damage in Tekken 8,
which you don't,
we would actually know that 9 is actually among the highest amount of chip damage a singular move grants you in Tekken 8.
And even if it is, which I hadn't bothered checking since this travesty of a patch, there's something here that you're too dumb to realize. This move is -9 on block, and now it's always gonna be -9 on block, so they can just start their offense and regain most or all of that damage. And then as the rotten cherry on top, they're probably putting you into endless rushdown.
Most moves in Tekken will give you maybe 4 chip, 6 chip. This move gives you 9 chip. 9 chip damage.
Why do you say that like other characters don't have moves that can do that kind of chip damage? Why am I asking? I know why, because you're a fucking peanut.
Now on hit, 32 damage in Tekken 8 is a very powerful single strike blow.
It is, but when are you gonna fucking land it?
Yeah.
You see the obvious problem here? A 20 frame slow linear mid is not exactly something that works often when you don't have a threatening low to mix it with. Especially not in neutral like you think it's supposed to be used, since you never talk about when you can use that move. It's even slower than 20 frames if you raw transition to Hitman first. But I mean, what can you expect from Mr. Exceptional at Breakdown over here? He thinks that 20 frames is fast.
Now, what does this move do on counter hit?
Fucking nothing!
This move does 38 damage on counter hit.
I am genuinely at a loss for words at the sheer retardation I'm hearing from you.
I fail to understand the argument how that's a bad thing and how that's a nerf.
That's because you're unable to conceive of anything you're not actively looking at.
Now, if you want to complain about your heat engagers, that heat engager now has been transferred over to his Hitman 111, which a lot of Lee players seem to not like. However, I do find it very interesting that maybe there are players that seem to forget that Law also has a heat engager that is 111.
What kind of argument is that? Just because they have the same input doesn't make them the same move. Law's 111 isn't even locked behind a stance.
Now, while his comes out at 10 frames and his ender is a mid, and it's unsafe.
Well, no, it isn't if he uses a heat dash out of it.
Lee is a high. However, Lee's is safe at -7.
I can't fucking deal with this one. This is the pinnacle of scrub ignorance. I'm just gonna show you this part from our stream.
Wait. Okay, so I don't know too much about this move. Is it jailing?
No, the first 2 hits jail.
Okay.
The third one is a fucking high. It's a fucking high! And the previous one's like 12 frames, 14 frames. That's already fucking 26 frames!
Yeah, okay. Okay, you know what this tells me? He gets completely trapped by Victor's like 2 loop, basically.
He does.
And trades with jabs.
It's fucking trades with jabs. It's 26 frames before that the third hit can even come out, and then I don't remember how much how fast the third hit is, but there's also no mix. He can't go to a mid from that. Like he can go mid from a single jab, but and it's not even scary unless you press like a retard. Where do you get off even comparing the two? There's no reason to ever get hit by the last hit of HMS 111. If Law does the full string, there is nothing you can do about it. You either get launched or take the -5.
So -7, 111. Now, while you can duck this,
if you know you can duck it, then why are you still speaking?
The whole point of this is you are mixing up and conditioning your opponent with Lee's Hitman 1. Because Lee's Hitman 1 is +2 on block, and then you can also dash, I believe, after.
The way you're doing it just shows you have no idea how to move in this game. You hold forward like that and you're getting launched into the stratosphere.
So now we're gonna have Victor's mash jabs, which is most people's retaliation anyway.
No, just because you don't know how to press any other button doesn't mean that everybody else is equally incompetent.
Now, if we know our opponent is just going to be mashy, and just be a nut, this is when we just let go of the third attack. And there's your heat engagement. So
You absolute turkey sandwich. If I know they're gonna match, I have much better options than that.
So now that you put the fear of the possibility of your opponent mashing his way into getting hit by a heat engager, your opponent will eventually stop mashing. And then it will start to look like this. Now your opponent will no longer start mashing because they are concerned about that last hit.
They never had to mash and they never should. This is really easy to deal with.
So if your opponent is mashing and they happen to be doing a slower type move, or they just happen to want to just go YOLO and do a hop kick, this will keep you safe. Now, of course,
You keep doing it again. You're absolutely fucking hopeless.
time you and actually crouch under it and launch you, but then again, there's very few things, very few situations in Tekken in general that are 100% guaranteed. So it is up to you as the lead player to condition your opponent and to make proper reads against your opponent.
Yeah, you're so close to saying something halfway correct, but you're still too stupid to realize the problem. Lee always has to make reads and be very confident in them. It's part of why I like him. He was always high risk, mid reward. That's why he struggles, but at least he had some stuff that worked and he could capitalize on outsmarting his opponent. The problem is they nerfed almost all of his core tools and now he's the only one who still has to actually play Tekken. Everybody else can just throw out high coverage moves that are too rewarding on hit and block. They have endless pressure with very little counterplay, while Lee's the exact opposite of that. I don't want Lee to be at that level, I just want the nerfs reverted and the bugs fixed. Every other character needs to chill the fuck out.
Lee's forward 2. Now this move, it's a 15 frame starter, +2 on block, and if you hold forward to dash forward, doing Lee's dash, it now becomes +5 on block.
Yeah, and that +5 is almost as fake as your 30 years of experience. I've already talked about this to death, so I'm not gonna repeat myself. But to summarize, whatever you try after that is liable to get you launched. You're better off using this move without going into misstep after it.
As you can see, it is a 15 frame startup. So you know what move works perfectly synergistically with this move? Forward 3. Forward 3 is 14 frames. It is a safe mid. So what you do is you utilize your forward 3 in conjunction with forward 2.
What?
That's what it's designed to do. Those moves are designed to work together.
No, they're freaking not. You defend against both of them in the exact same way.
The forward 3 is 14. So that means your opponent only has 1 frame to fuzzy guard.
Fuzzy guard? Okay, first off, I'm surprised you even know that term, but second, why would you ever try to do that? Third, if you're fuzzy guarding mid and low, then you're doing it on string mix-ups or follow-up mix-ups, not in freaking neutral. Fourth, why would you even consider fuzzy guarding a 1 frame difference?
Which means the amount of time they have to make a different defensive decision.
You're not making a decision, you're automatically switching between the two on a timing to defend against both options.
As the defending player, this is an attack at 15 frames. You have to preemptively be already ducking to deal with it.
So in other words, you can't fuzzy it. Thanks for instantly contradicting yourself, but you're still wasting my fucking time.
That is when you know you have a perfect to semi-perfect mix.
No, because you can easily step both of them. Only way you could do it is on O-key. And besides, FF3 lost all pushbacks, so you're just putting yourself in a mixed situation.
And forward 3 was 15, it would be a perfect mix. There would be no way for you to guess. You couldn't fuzzy at all.
Will you please make up your sour jelly mind already?
Lead players will probably say, well, you know, you can sidestep both moves.
So you're aware of that, and yet you keep insisting that it's a perfect mix. Okay, I see what's happening here. You are literally incapable of having more than one thought in your head at a time. You say one thing and then you forget it by the time you start your next sentence.
Of course you can. And that brings me to my next point.
You'd need to have made a point before you can have a next one.
So let's talk about Lee's tracking 1+2.
Holy shish kebab, you don't have the first clue about anything. You don't even know the difference between homing and tracking. Now it's really not surprising that you say perfect high crush. Your 30 years of experience is the biggest lie in history since some asshole said I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
You know, for all of the complaints I hear about Lee, oh, he lost his tracking. I'm gonna get into that at the end of the video.
I've already shown that Lee basically does not have tracking, and spoiler alert, he's not gonna get into it.
Standing 1+2 is a tracking. On hit, this move does 20 damage, and it also gives you +3 advantage.
If you can't keep any sort of pressure at +5, then you can't do it at +3. Skip.
On counter hit, however, not only does the move knock you down, it actually leads to a full-fledged combo.
Genuinely surprised you knew that.
70 to possibly maybe even 90 damage from simply landing a safe tracking mid-attack.
It's not just simply landing it, you fucking fruit fly. You just said yourself it's on counter hit, and I know you think it's fast, but it's actually a very slow move.
I fail to understand the argument of Lee's tracking.
That's because you're too stupid and ignorant to understand what tracking is.
So I want to go over just some basic general strategies.
No, you fucking won't. All you're gonna do is say you can mix 1+2 and down back 3+4 because they have the same startup frames. Your incompetence speaks for itself.
I just want the newer crowd to understand.
Don't you dare talk to the new crowd. We don't need you driving the bar lower than the Mariana Trench.
When you are seeing all these YouTube videos of all these players that are shouting from the rooftops that Lee is this, the pine box, he's dead, he's trash, he's this.
Then you're seeing videos from somebody who's at least literate and has played Tekken at least once in their life before.
I want some of you newer players to actually invest some time in the character.
Unlike you.
And instead of focusing on what the character is missing, try to dive deeper into the benefits of what the character actually has.
You didn't do either, Mr. Exceptional at Breakdown. You didn't even acknowledge the lost evasion or the mega nerf while standing 2-3, let alone the other nerfs. Lee actually has nothing now.
Are the majority of these Lee players complaining that he's like this god-awful character? They're exaggerating.
We're not, and anybody who played him in passing will be able to tell you the same if they're honest.
I have to think that a lot of these Lee players just want their character to be absolutely broken.
No, nigga, we just wanted to... Oh, fuck, you made me do it again. We just want him to be functional. We want the unnecessary nerfs reverted. We want the new easy mode combo to be thrown out the window. We want the character to keep his identity. And we want everybody else to be nerfed into a reasonable state.
That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. I don't mean no disrespect.
And that's a fucking lie because other people have tried to patiently and politely explain to you why you're wrong, but you're so narcissistic and arrogant that you just dismiss them when all your arguments are countered. Because you pretend that you were looking at things objectively when you can barely read, let alone play Tekken. You're sitting firmly at the very top of the mountain of ignorance and you don't even know that there's a valley beyond it. I'm done with you. I know you made more videos on the topic, but I don't care. If I never see you again, it'll be too soon, and every second I spent listening to you is a second I deeply regret.